Hello and welcome to Movies That Move Me. I'm your host Elijah Winfrey, and today we got a rarity, a triple feature. That's right, we're going to talk about three movies in roughly 10 minutes, okay? So I'm going to have to stay on task with this one, but I think you're going to enjoy it, all right? So the first film, because I can't waste no time this evening, all right? So the first film that we're going to talk about is the movie Seven. Okay, want to talk about the movie Seven, starring Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman and Kevin Spacey and Gwyneth Paltrow. This is a movie that is directed by David Fincher, and it is one of my all-time favorite thriller movies. In fact, I'll tell you a brief story here, and again, I won't have a ton of time to be able to do brief stories, but I'll take this moment here. When I first got into acting, one of the first roles that I did was as the Riddler. And my Riddler was kind of a continuation off of Batman Forever. So basically, Edward Nygma's been sitting in Arkham for like 18 years, and now we pick up the story with him 18 years later. And so Seven was one of those movies that I watched a lot. I watched a lot because I wanted to study how Kevin Spacey acted as John Doe in this film, and how he was able to act crazy, but not over the top crazy. And so that movie was hugely inspiring to me for that purpose, but I've also watched it many, many, many times since. I love how it basically is never sunny uh, in the movie Seven. I love how the weather kind of plays a role in it. I love the back and forth between Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt. Morgan Freeman at one end of his career, getting ready to wrap things up. Brad Pitt, starting out his career as a cop and trying to prove himself and, trying to be that authority figure, even though we can all, as an audience, kind of tell that's not him, at least not yet anyway. So I love that as well. Again, I'm just a huge fan of this movie, and I think David Fincher really knocked it out of the park with it. It's creepy when it needs to be creepy. There are some comedic moments in it, but for the most part, I mean, it is a serious film, including that opening song in this film and the opening credits. I really, really, really enjoyed. So Seven for me is hugely inspirational when I am trying to write a horror film or I'm trying to write a meaningful villain. I like to watch that, and somehow, some way, I can't really explain it. It's just like it just kind of flows out of me. The words, kind of flow out of me, go onto the page, and before I know it, I have a villain that I can work with. And this movie really helps me with that. So, Seven is the first movie that I wanted to talk about here from 1995. Moving on, I want to talk about another David Fincher movie. And this is not all David Fincher tonight, okay? This is not all David Fincher. But the next movie I wanted to talk about is Zodiac. Now, this movie came out in 2007, and it gives me the creeps every time I watch it. And you might be like, why is he excited about getting the creeps? I'm not someone who usually likes the horror genre, which might surprise some folks. I am a big old scaredy cat when it comes when it comes to watching horror films. But for some reason, movies like that are about serial killers or movies about history, those seem to be okay with me. But this movie, even though it is okay, and I rewatch it quite a bit actually, it still gives me the creeps. Okay, again, it's another one where weather kind of plays a factor, and it is sunny in some scenes of the movie, but for the most part, you just kind of feel like you're like, oh man, there's like a cloud over all of these events, and of course, all of these events in Zodiac are real and actually happened, so that kind of adds a layer to it as well. But I've been in development lately on a horror script called Fourth Coast Killer, and this movie was hugely inspirational because we're writing a movie in which we have a slasher and he's on the run and that sort of deal. So for me, I found myself rewatching Seven and Zodiac quite a bit for that reason. And so Zodiac, again, hugely inspirational to me as far as the movie is concerned. And I also went and read the book too. I know this is not a book show, but I did read the book. And I would encourage folks, if you're interested at all in that part of our history, I know some folks would rather not even acknowledge that it exists. And hey, if that's your opinion, okay, you probably didn't make it that far to this video though. So, but if that is your opinion, I respect it. But if you are looking to learn more about that, there was a lot more that was not included in the movie that they hinted at in the film, but didn't have time to really address in depth. So we talked about Seven. We talked about Zodiac. Zodiac, by the way, if you're trying to find it, because there are multiple movies out there about the Zodiac, this one has got Jake Gyllenhaal in it. It's also got Mark Ruffalo in it. Robert Downey Jr.'s in it as well. So that should help you a little bit. And it came out in 2007. I don't always memorize the years that these things came out, so that's why I have to look down and see when it did. So last movie that we're going to talk about here in our triple feature, okay? This one came out not that long ago. All right, not that long ago. The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves, starring Robert Pattinson and Paul Dano, and obviously Zoe Kravitz was in it as well, and Colin Farrell, who we talked about a few episodes ago. This is a great movie. It really is. It's I believe it's over 3 hours long, if I'm not mistaken. If it's not over, it's damn near close to 3 hours long. And I remember when it was coming out, obviously the first trailer had me excited because I'm a Riddler fan. Riddler's my favorite Batman villain. And I think Paul Dano is a great actor, so I was super excited to see what Paul Dano was going to do with it. What I was not expecting, and this really isn't an inspiration thing, but it is kind of funny. What I was not expecting was all of my friends who went and saw this movie were like, dude, you look like the Riddler. And I'll just take my hat off here for a second because like a lot of times this is what I look like, right? And so if I took my glasses off, all right, and I shaved my face, a lot of my friends were like, oh my God, you look like the Riddler. So on the one hand, because like I'm a Riddler fan, I'm like, hey, yeah. On the other hand, I'm like, you're telling me I look like a serial killer. I don't know how to really take that. But anyway, this movie, I really love it. I love, again, how the weather plays a huge factor in the movie. I love the colors. I love the music. I love the performances. The one thing that I latched onto early on was that Matt Reeves said, if you want to understand my film, watch movies like Zodiac and Seven. I had already been doing that because I love both of those movies. So I went into this film having watched Zodiac, having watched Seven a ton of times, and having read the novel that goes with the Batman movie. I was ready. I was ready for this, and I was able to enjoy it so much more, I think, than a lot of other folks who just went into it thinking it was going to be your standard Batman flick. And that's what I have a radio show that I do in the morning. That's my day job. I kept trying to convince people, listen, don't do that. Don't think this is like every other Batman you've ever seen, because it's not. This is Detective Batman. This is a detective story, and Batman just happens to be there. But he is trying to catch a killer. That is what he's trying to do. And some people listened to what I had to say. Other people didn't listen to what I had to say. Some people went into it with an open mind. Some people didn't go into it at all, saying, I'm not watching Twilight Boy, which they missed out. They really, really missed out because of their narrow-mindedness. But I really enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed all three of these films. And for me, the inspiration I take out of it is, like I said, I've been working on a script called Fourth Coast Killer, which is a serial killer movie where a serial killer is on the run and we got to catch him, and how do we catch him, and how do we deal with all the misinformation that comes out from all these people that think they have tips that are going to help the authorities, but they really don't, and all these wild goose hunts and all that type of stuff. I go back and I rewatch these three films, and I find things I can add to this script and the next one. So for me, that's what's so inspirational. And I think I was able to get all three of these movies in about 10 minutes, which I didn't think I was going to be able to do when I sat down tonight. So with that being said, hey, have you seen Seven? Have you seen Zodiac? Have you seen The Batman? If you did, what did you think about him? Let me know in the comments below. And if you are a filmmaker, are you as inspired by these films when you're trying to write something creepy like I am? Let me know. Until we talk again, hey, be good to yourself, be good to others in that order. See you soon.